Genesis chapter 11. At first, all the people in the world spoke the same language and used the same words. As they moved around in the east, they found a flat land in Babylonia and decided to live there. They said to each other, "Let's make bricks and bake them until they are hard." So they used bricks to build and tar to hold the bricks together. Then they said, "Let's build a city with a tall tower that reaches the sky. We want to be famous and not be spread out all over the earth." The Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. He said, "These people are united and speak the same language. This is only the beginning. Soon, they will be able to do anything they want. Let's go down and mix up their language so they won't understand each other." So the Lord scattered them all over the earth, and they stopped building the city. The city was named Babylon, because that is where the Lord confused the language of all the people. From there, the Lord scattered them across the earth. These are the children and grandchildren of Shem. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he had a son named Arpachshad. After that, Shem lived 500 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Arpachshad was 35 years old, he had a son named Shelah. After that, Arpachshad lived 403 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah was 30 years old, he had a son named Eber. After that, Shelah lived 403 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber was 34 years old, he had a son named Peleg. After that, Eber lived 430 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg was 30 years old, he had a son named Reu. After that, Peleg lived 209 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu was 32 years old, he had a son named Serug. After that, Reu lived 207 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug was 30 years old, he had a son named Nahor. After that, Serug lived 200 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor was 29 years old, he had a son named Terah. After that, Nahor lived 119 more years and had other sons and daughters. When Terah was 70 years old, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. These are the children and grandchildren of Terah. Terah was the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran was the father of Lot. Haran died in his hometown, Ur in Babylonia, while his father Terah was still alive. Abram married Sarai. Nahor married Milcah, who was the daughter of Haran. Haran was also the father of Iscah. Sarai could not have children. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, Abram's wife, and left the city of Ur in Babylonia. They were going to the land of Canaan, but when they got to the city of Haran, they stayed there. Terah died in Haran at the age of 205. Genesis chapter 12. God said to Abram, "Leave your country, your family, and your father's house. Go to a land that I will show you. I will give you many children and grandchildren, and they will become a great nation. I will bless you and make your name well known, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who are kind to you, but I will curse those who treat you badly. Because of you, all the people on earth will be blessed." Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran, just like God told him. His nephew Lot went with him. Abram took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all their things, and the people they had in Haran. They started traveling to the land of Canaan. When they reached Canaan, Abram walked through the land until he came to the big tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were still living there. God appeared to Abram and said, "I will give this land to your children and their children." Then Abram built an altar there to worship God, who had appeared to him. Later he moved to a hill area east of Bethel and set up his camp between Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. He built another altar there and prayed to the Lord. Then he continued traveling, moving from place to place, heading south in Canaan. But there was not enough food in Canaan, so Abram went to Egypt to stay there for a while. Just before they crossed the border into Egypt, Abram said to Sarai, "You are very beautiful. When the Egyptians see you, they will know you are my wife. They might kill me and let you live. Please say that you are my sister, so they will treat me well and let me live because of you." When they entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarai was very beautiful. Some of the king's officials saw her and told the king about her, so Sarai was taken to live in the king's palace. Because of her, the king was kind to Abram and gave him sheep, goats, cattle, donkeys, servants, and camels. But the Lord sent serious sicknesses on the king and everyone in his palace because he had taken Sarai. Then the king called Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she was your sister and let me take her as my wife? Here is your wife. Take her and leave." The king told his men to send Abram away. They sent Abram, his wife, and everything he owned out of the country. Genesis chapter 13. Abram left Egypt and went north to the southern part of Canaan. He took his wife and everything he owned with him. Lot also went with him. Abram was very rich. He had many sheep, goats, and cattle. He also had silver and gold. Abram traveled from place to place. He was heading toward Bethel. He came to the place between Bethel and Ai. It was the same place where he had camped before. It was also where he had built an altar. There Abram prayed and worshipped the Lord. Lot also had sheep, goats, and cattle. He had his own family and servants too. There wasn't enough land for both Abram and Lot to stay together. They had too many animals to share the pasture. So the men who took care of Abram's animals started arguing. The men who took care of Lot's animals argued with them. At that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were still living in the land. Abram said to Lot, "We are family. Our workers should not be fighting. Let's go separate ways. You pick any part of the land you want. If you go one way, I'll go the other." Lot looked around and saw the whole Jordan Valley. It had a lot of water and looked very nice. It looked like the garden of the Lord or like Egypt. This was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose the whole Jordan Valley for himself. He went east and moved away. That is how Abram and Lot went different ways. Abram stayed in the land of Canaan. Lot lived in the cities of the valley. He camped near the city of Sodom. The people of Sodom were very wicked. They sinned a lot against the Lord. After Lot left, the Lord spoke to Abram. God said, "Look around you in every direction. I will give all this land to you and your children forever. I will give you so many children and grandchildren that no one will be able to count them all. It would be like trying to count all the dust on the earth," God said. "Now walk through the land and look at it. I am going to give it all to you." So Abram moved his camp. He went to live near the big trees of Mamre in Hebron. There he built an altar to the Lord. Genesis chapter 14. 4 kings, Amraphel of Babylonia, Arioch of Elasar, Chedorlaomer of Elam, and Tidal of Goim, joined together to fight a war. They went to war against 5 other kings, Bera of Sodom, Birsha of Gomorrah, Shinab of Admah, Shemeber of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, also called Zoar. These 5 kings were allies and joined their armies in the Siddim Valley, which is now the Dead Sea. For 12 years they had obeyed King Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they decided to rebel and stop following him. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the other 3 kings came with their armies and attacked. They defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in the plains of Kiriathaim, and the Horites in the mountains of Edom, chasing them all the way to El-Paran, near the desert. Then they turned back and went to Kadesh, also known as En-Mishpat. They took over the land of the Amalekites and defeated the Amorites who lived in Hazazon Tamar. Then the 5 kings, Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela, got ready to fight in the Siddim Valley. They fought against the 4 kings, Elam, Goyim, Babylonia, and Elasar. It was a big battle, 5 kings against 4. The valley was full of sticky tar pits. When the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah tried to run away, they fell into the pits. But the other 3 kings escaped to the mountains. The 4 kings took everything from Sodom and Gomorrah, including all the food. They also took Lot, Abram's nephew, who was living in Sodom, along with everything he owned. But one man escaped and went to tell Abram, the Hebrew, what had happened. Abram was living near some special trees that belonged to Mamre the Amorite. Mamre and his brothers, Eshcol and Aner, were Abram's friends and allies. When Abram heard that his nephew had been taken, he called together all the trained men in his camp. There were 318 of them, and they chased after the 4 kings all the way to Dan. At night, Abram divided his men into groups and surprised the enemy. He defeated them and chased them all the way to Hobah, north of Damascus. Abram brought back everything that had been taken. He also rescued his nephew, Lot, all his belongings, the women, and the other people. After Abram won the battle, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the Shaveh Valley, also called the King's Valley. Melchizedek, the king of Salem, was also a priest of the Most High God. He brought bread and wine to Abram. Melchizedek blessed Abram and said, "May the Most High God, who made heaven and earth, bless you, Abram. May the Most High God, who gave you victory over your enemies, be praised." Then Abram gave Melchizedek 1/10 of all the things he had brought back. The king of Sodom said to Abram, "You can keep all the things you brought back, but give me my people." Abram replied, "I promise before the Lord, the Most High God, the maker of heaven and earth, that I will not keep anything that belongs to you, not even a thread or a sandal strap. Then you can never say, 'I made Abram rich.' I will take nothing for myself, except what my men have already eaten. But let my friends, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, take their share." Genesis chapter 15. After this, Abram had a vision from God. God said to him, "Don't be afraid, Abram. I will protect you and give you a big reward." But Abram said, "Lord, what good is your reward if I don't have any children?" He added, "The only one who can get my things when I die is Eliezer from Damascus." Abram said, "You have not given me any children, so one of my servants will get everything I own." Then God spoke to Abram again. God said, "Eliezer will not be your heir. You will have your own son, and he will inherit everything." God took Abram outside and said, "Look at the sky and try to count the stars." He said, "You will have just as many descendants as the stars." Abram believed what God said. Because Abram trusted him, God was happy with him and accepted him. Then God said, "I am the Lord. I brought you out of Ur in Babylonia to give you this land as your own." But Abram asked, "Lord, how can I be sure this land will really be mine?" God answered, "Bring me a cow, a goat, and a ram. Each one must be 3 years old. Also bring a dove and a pigeon." Abram brought the animals to God. He cut them in half and laid the halves in 2 rows, facing each other. But he did not cut the birds in half. Some vultures came down to eat the bodies, but Abram chased them away. As the sun was going down, Abram fell into a deep sleep. While he slept, he felt afraid and full of fear. Then God said to him, Your descendants will live in a land that is not theirs. They will be treated badly and become slaves there for 400 years. But I will punish the people who make them slaves. When your descendants leave that land, they will take many riches with them. You, Abram, will live a long life, die peacefully, and be buried. After 4 generations, your people will come back to this land. This will happen when the Amorites have become so evil that I must punish them." When the sun had set and it was dark, Abram saw something amazing. He saw a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch pass between the animal pieces. At that moment, God made a special promise, called a covenant, with Abram. God said, "I promise to give this land to your descendants." The land will stretch from the border of Egypt to the Euphrates River. It will include the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, also the land of the Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Genesis chapter 16. Abram's wife Sarai had no children. She had an Egyptian slave woman named Hagar. Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord hasn't let me have children. Why don't you sleep with my slave? Maybe she can have a child for me." Abram agreed with Sarai's idea. So Sarai gave Hagar to Abram to be his second wife. This happened after Abram had lived in Canaan for 10 years. Abram slept with Hagar, and she became pregnant. When Hagar found out she was pregnant, she felt proud. She began to look down on Sarai. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I gave you my slave, but now that she is pregnant, she treats me badly. Let the Lord decide who is right, you or me." Abram said, "She is your slave, so you can do whatever you want with her." Then Sarai treated Hagar so badly that Hagar ran away. The angel of the Lord found Hagar by a spring in the desert on the way to Shur. He said, "Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going?" Hagar said, "I'm running away from my mistress Sarai." The angel said, "Go back to her and obey her." Then the angel said, "I will give you so many descendants that no one will be able to count them. You are going to have a son, and you will name him Ishmael. This is because the Lord has heard your cry for help. He will be like a wild donkey. He will fight with everyone, and everyone will fight with him. He will live far away from his family." Hagar said to herself, "Have I really seen God and lived?" So she called the Lord who spoke to her, "The God who sees me." That's why people call the well between Kadesh and Bered the well of the living one who sees me. Hagar gave birth to Abram's son. Abram named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Genesis chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord came to him and said, "I am God who has all power. Obey me and always do what is right. I will make a special promise to you and give you many children and grandchildren." Abram bowed down with his face to the ground. Then God said, "I am making this promise with you. You will be the father of many nations. Your name will not be Abram anymore. Your new name will be Abraham. This is because I am making you the father of many nations. I will give you many descendants, and some of them will be kings. You will have so many descendants that they will become many nations. I will keep this promise to you and to your children and grandchildren forever. I will be your God and the God of your family forever. I will give you and your descendants this land where you now live as a stranger. This whole land of Canaan will belong to your family forever, and I will be their God." Then God said to Abraham, "You must also keep this promise between me and you. Your descendants must keep it too, for all time. Every male among you must be circumcised. From now on, every baby boy must be circumcised when he is 8 days old. This includes boys born in your house and boys you buy from foreigners. This will be the sign that there is a promise between you and me. Every male must be circumcised, and this will show that my promise with you will last forever. Any male who is not circumcised will no longer be part of my people because he did not keep the promise. Then God said to Abraham, "Do not call your wife Sarai anymore. Her new name will be Sarah. I will bless her and give you a son through her. I will bless her, and she will become the mother of nations. Kings will come from her family." Abraham bowed down with his face to the ground, but he started to laugh. He thought, "Can a man have a child when he is 100 years old? Can Sarah have a child when she is 90? Then Abraham said to God, "Please let Ishmael be the one to carry on after me." But God said, "No. Your wife Sarah will have a son, and you will name him Isaac. I will make my promise with him and with his descendants forever. It will be a promise that never ends. I have heard what you said about Ishmael, and I will bless him too. I will give him many children and descendants. He will be the father of 12 princes, and I will make a great nation from his family. But I will keep my special promise with Isaac. Sarah will have him about this time next year." After God finished talking with Abraham, he left. That same day, Abraham obeyed God. He circumcised his son Ishmael and all the other males in his household. This included slaves born in his home and slaves he had bought. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised. His son Ishmael was 13 years old. They were both circumcised on the same day. All the male slaves in Abraham's house were circumcised with them. Genesis chapter 18. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the big trees of Mamre. Abraham was sitting at the entrance of his tent during the hottest time of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. As soon as he saw them, he ran to meet them. He bowed low, with his face to the ground. He said, "Sirs, please don't pass by my home without stopping. I want to serve you. Let me bring some water so you can wash your feet. You can rest under this tree. I will also bring you some food to give you strength for your journey. You have honored me by coming, so let me help you." They said, "Thank you. We accept." Abraham quickly went into the tent and said to Sarah, "Hurry, take a sack of your best flour and bake some bread." Then he ran to his herd, chose a tender and fat calf, and gave it to a servant to cook quickly. He took some cream, milk, and the cooked meat, and brought the food to the men. Abraham served them himself under the tree, and they ate. Then the men asked him, "Where is your wife Sarah?" He answered, "She is in the tent." One of them said, "I will come back in 9 months, and your wife Sarah will have a son." Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Abraham and Sarah were very old, and Sarah no longer had her monthly periods. Sarah laughed quietly to herself and said, "Now that I am old, can I really have a baby? My husband is old too." Then the Lord asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Can I really have a child when I'm so old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? As I said, in 9 months I will return, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she said, "I didn't laugh." But the Lord said, "Yes, you did laugh." Then the men got up and looked toward the city of Sodom, and Abraham walked with them to send them off. The Lord said to himself, "I won't hide from Abraham what I am about to do. His children will become a great and powerful nation, and all nations will be blessed through him. I have chosen him so that he will teach his children and future family to obey me and do what is right. If they do this, I will do everything I have promised for him." Then the Lord said to Abraham, "I have heard many terrible things about Sodom and Gomorrah. Their sin is very great. I must go down and see if these things are true." Then the two men left and went toward Sodom, but the Lord stayed with Abraham. Abraham came closer to the Lord and asked, "Are you really going to destroy good people along with the bad ones? If there are 50 good people in the city, will you still destroy it? Won't you save the city for the sake of the 50? You wouldn't kill the good people with the bad. That's not right. The judge of all the earth must do what is right." The Lord said, "If I find 50 good people in Sodom, I will save the whole city for their sake." Abraham said, "Please forgive me for speaking, Lord. I am only a man. But what if there are only 45 good people? Will you destroy the city for just 5 less?" The Lord said, "I won't destroy it if I find 45 good people." Abraham spoke again, "What if there are only 40? The Lord said, "I will not destroy it if there are 40. Abraham said, "Please don't be angry, Lord, but what if there are only 30? The Lord said, "I will not do it if I find 30. Abraham said, "Please forgive me for speaking again, Lord. What if only 20 are found? The Lord said, "I will not destroy the city if I find 20 good people." Abraham said, "Please don't be angry, Lord. I will speak just once more. What if only 10 are found?" The Lord said, "I will not destroy it if there are 10. When the Lord finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham went back home. Genesis chapter 19. 2 angels came to the city of Sodom in the evening. Lot was sitting at the city gate when he saw them. He got up, went to meet them, and bowed down to show respect. He said, "Sirs, I want to help you. Please come to my house. You can wash your feet and spend the night. In the morning you can continue your journey." The angels said, "No, we will stay in the city square tonight." Lot kept asking them to come, and finally they agreed. They went to his house, and Lot had his servants make bread and a nice meal for them. When the food was ready, the guests ate it. Before they went to bed, the men of Sodom surrounded the house. All the men from the city, young and old, were there. They shouted to Lot, "Where are the men who came to stay with you? Bring them out!" They wanted to hurt the guests in a bad way. Lot went outside and closed the door behind him. He said, "Friends, please don't do something so evil." He added, "I have 2 daughters who have never been with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you want with them. But don't do anything to these men. They are my guests, and I must protect them." But the men shouted, "Get out of our way, stranger! Who are you to tell us what to do? Move, or we will treat you worse than them." They pushed Lot and came close to breaking down the door. The 2 guests reached out, pulled Lot back into the house, and shut the door. Then they made all the men outside blind, so they couldn't find the door. The angel said to Lot, "Do you have any other family here, sons, daughters, or anyone else? Get them out of this city because we are going to destroy it. The Lord knows how bad the people are and has sent us to destroy Sodom." Lot went to the men who were going to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and leave this place. The Lord is going to destroy the city." But they thought he was joking. At dawn, the angels told Lot to hurry. They said, "Take your wife and your 2 daughters and leave, or you will die when the city is destroyed." Lot was slow to move, but the Lord had mercy on him. So the angels took Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters by the hand and led them out of the city. One angel said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the valley. Run to the hills so you won't die." But Lot said, "Please, sir, don't make us run that far. You have been very kind to me and saved my life, but I can't make it to the hills. Something bad might happen to me on the way, and I could die. There is a small town nearby. Let me go there. It's just a little place, and I will be safe." The angel said, "All right. I won't destroy that town. Hurry, run there. I can't do anything until you get there." Because Lot called it small, the town was named Zoar. As the sun was rising, Lot reached Zoar. Then the Lord sent burning sulfur down from the sky on Sodom and Gomorrah. He destroyed those cities and the whole valley. All the people and all the plants were destroyed. But Lot's wife looked back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham went to the place where he had spoken with the Lord. He looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and the valley. He saw smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a big furnace. When God destroyed the cities of the valley, he remembered Abraham. He saved Lot from the disaster that destroyed the cities where he had lived. Lot was afraid to stay in Zoar, so he and his 2 daughters moved to the hills. They lived in a cave. The older daughter said, "Our father is old. There are no men around to marry us and help us have children. Let's get our father drunk with wine. Then we can sleep with him and have children by him." That night they gave their father wine, and the older daughter slept with him. He was so drunk that he didn't know what happened. The next day the older daughter said, "I slept with him last night. Let's get him drunk again tonight, and you can sleep with him too. Then we will both have children by our father." So that night they gave him more wine, and the younger daughter slept with him. Again he was too drunk to know what happened. Both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and named him Moab. He became the ancestor of the Moabite people. The younger daughter also had a son, and named him Ben-Ammi. He became the ancestor of the Ammonite people. Genesis chapter 20. Abraham moved from a place called Mamre to the southern part of Canaan. He lived between 2 places called Kadesh and Shur. Later, while he was living in a place called Gerar, he told people that his wife Sarah was his sister. So the king of Gerar, named Abimelech, took Sarah to live with him. But one night God spoke to Abimelech in a dream. God said, "You are going to die because you took this woman who is already married." Abimelech had not touched Sarah, so he said, "Lord, I didn't do anything wrong. Would you punish me and my people even though I am innocent?" Abimelech said, "Abraham told me she was his sister, and she also said he was her brother." I believed them, and did not mean to do anything bad. God said in the dream, "Yes, I know you didn't mean to sin. That's why I stopped you from touching her." God continued, "Now give the woman back to her husband. He is a prophet, and he will pray for you so you won't die. But if you don't return her, you and your people will die." Early the next morning, Abimelech told his officials what had happened in the dream. They were all very afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and asked, "What have you done to us? What wrong did I do to you that made you bring this trouble on me and my kingdom? You should not have done this." Abimelech asked, "Why did you lie?" Abraham answered, "I thought no one here respected God, and they would kill me to take my wife." Abraham said, "Sarah really is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not my mother, and I married her." He also said, "When God told me to leave my home and go to other places, I told Sarah to say I was her brother to protect me." Then Abimelech gave Sarah back to Abraham. He also gave Abraham sheep, cattle, and slaves. Abimelech said, "You can live anywhere you like in my land." He told Sarah, "I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver to show everyone that you are innocent and did nothing wrong." Because of what happened with Sarah, God had made it so that no women in Abimelech's house could have children. So Abraham prayed to God for Abimelech. God healed Abimelech. God also healed his wife and the slave women, so they could have children again.